Yeah. Hi guys, good evening everyone. In the last session, we discussed about what is cache and why we need to go for cache, what is Redis, and how we need to integrate Spring Boot with Redis server. So what is cache, guys? Cache is a temporary storage that will represent the data in the form of key and value format. By using cache data, we can reduce number of DB calls from our application. DB call is always costly. What is the meaning of DB call is always costly? So here, when our application is communicating with the database, it will take more time to execute because it has to load the driver, get the connection, statement creation, query execution, close the connection. Lot of steps will execute in the background. So that's why DB call is always costly. To reduce number of DB calls in our application, we are going for Redis. Redis is one of the open source data store available in the market. So in order to communicate with the Redis server by using Spring Boot, there is a starter called Spring Boot Starter. Redis is available. Spring Boot Starter, Redis available. We will use below components to communicate with the Redis server. What is that? First one is Redis Connection Factory. What is the purpose of Redis Connection Factory? That is used to establish communication with the Redis server. And we have Redis template. What is the purpose of Redis template? It is used to perform operations by using Redis, right? So from the Redis template, we are getting ops for hash. What is the purpose of ops for hash? Yes, it is providing the methods to communicate with the Redis server. All right. I have downloaded Redis server, guys. When I download Redis server, here there is a file called Redis server.exe file is available. Let me simply double click on this file and let me see that. So I have started my Redis server. So there is a file called redis-server.exe. When I double click on that file, it started Redis server. What is the port number of the Redis server? 6379. That is a default port number. Can I call this is banner of the Redis? Yes, this is a banner of the Redis and it is running on the port number 6379. Once a Redis server is started, there is a file called Redis client.exe. There is another file called Redis client.exe. When I double click on that file, it is connected to Redis server. So 127.0.0.1, that means localhost 6379. So this is client which is communicate with the Redis server. Redis server is started and Redis client is started. This Redis client is going to communicate with the Redis server. Got it? Let me call it as Redis client and let me call this as Redis server. Redis server. Now I can develop one Spring Boot application. That boot application also will act as a Redis client. This is my boot app. Boot app also will act as a client for the Redis server. Once a Redis server is installed, we can connect with the Redis server by using Redis client and we can connect that by using Spring Boot application. Python also can connect with the Redis. .NET also can connect with the Redis. Redis server supporting 50 plus programming languages. We are using Java. By using our Java application, I'm going to communicate with this Redis server. All right. So this is my client. This is my client. Here, my Redis server is already running. Let me test it. My client is able to communicate with the Redis server or not. To test it, I will execute a command called ping command. When I execute ping, it is responding as pong. What is the meaning of that? It is able to connect with the server. The communication between Redis client, Redis server is successful. Here, if you want to store the data in the Redis, then we will go for set I10. Okay, so I is the key, 10 is the value. Get I. What happened now? So am I able to set the data and I'm able to get the data. So data we are setting in the form of key and value. So what is Redis and what is the purpose of Redis? Come on, guys. Redis is a data store which is acting as a cache. It is used to store the data in the form of key and value. Now I want to develop one Spring Boot application to communicate with the Redis server. I downloaded Redis server as a zip file. I extracted that zip file. I will give the link for that, guys, to download it. In that there is a file called redis-server.exe. What is the purpose of redis-server.exe? It is used to start the Redis server. It is running in my machine with a port number 6379. What is the MySQL port number? MySQL 3306, Oracle 1521, Tomcat 8080, right? Jipkin server 9411. So like this, there are port numbers. Redis is using port number as 6379. Perfect. Now let me start application development, guys. I want to communicate with the Redis server. For that, I'm going to create one boot application. In that boot application, Redis server dependency I will use, and I will use Redis connection factory. What is the purpose of Redis connection factory? To establish communication with the Redis server. Then what is Redis template? What is Redis template? To perform operations. From the Redis template, I will get ops for hash. Okay, let me create one boot application. File, new, Spring Starter project. Let me create 37 application, Spring Boot Redis application. Spring Boot Redis application. Click on next. Yes. Now web starter I'm taking, dev tools I'm taking, Lombok I'm taking, and Redis starter I'm going to take. Spring Boot data Redis. Spring Boot data JPA, Spring Boot data Redis. Now here I'm using Redis. If I want to communicate with the database, then I will go for JPA starter. Now I don't want to use the database. I want to use only Redis server. For that I'm taking Spring Data Redis dependency. Observe DevTools, Lombok, Data Redis, and Web Starter dependencies I'm using. Click on next. Before this 2.7 version. Click on next. Click on finish. So with this, my project is getting created. Application is getting created. Yeah. Fine. Spring Boot Redis application is getting created. Go to pom.xml. In the pom.xml, we have Spring Boot Starter data Redis dependency, Spring Boot Starter web dependency, Spring Boot DevTools dependency, project Lombok dependency is also available. Now I'm creating one class with a name called user. I want to store user data in the Redis or anything. What I want to store some object in the Redis, or else I can store one binding object which will represent data. Let me take the binding object as country. Anything. I want to store the data and I want to retrieve the data. Country. So here I'm going for private integer ID, private string name, something, and private string country code. ID normal serial number, country name, and country code. Private integer. Let me take this as serial number. I want to setters getters. For that, let me go for @data. Lombok annotation I'm using. Perfect. One simple binding class I have created, that is a country. In that class, I have taken 3 variables. For them, I'm writing @data. Setters and getters will be generated for that. Perfect. Now I'm going to create one class called configuration class. Config class I'm creating. This class I'm taking the name as Redis config, right? So this is my configuration class. How to represent that as a configuration? @configuration. Now I'm writing one method, public Redis connection factory. Public Redis connection factory, Redis connection. Jedis connection, right? So inside this, we can write the logic and we can create the object. So what I will do is Jedis connection factory object I'm creating. So Jedis is equal to new Jedis connection factory object I'm creating. Okay, return Jedis object. Return Jedis object. In the real time, what we will do is Jedis dot set host name where that Redis server is available. Okay, and we are going to use Jedis dot set port on which port number that is running, set host name, set port number, like that methods will be available. So here we need to set Redis server properties, but currently that is not required. The reason is in the same machine my application is running and my Redis server also running. Both are running in the same computer. When both are running in the same computer, you no need to set any properties for that. Tomorrow in the real time, our application will run in one computer, Redis server will run in the another computer. So currently both are running in the same computer. So I no need to set any properties for that. Automatically it will detect that which is running in the same computer. I want this method should be executed by IOC container. How can I tell to IOC to call this method? By using a annotation called @bean annotation. I'm taking annotation called @bean that is representing that this object will be created by this method. That object will be represented as a Spring Bean object. Okay. Then next one, I'm going to create one more method that is going to return Redis template, key and value. What type of data you want to store in the Redis? What type of data you want to store in the Redis? I want to store serial number as a key and value is a country object. Value is country object. Redis template. I want to customize Redis template object creation also. To customize the Redis template object, I will create Redis template object here. Redis template key, that is integer, and value, that is country. Okay guys, now Redis template is equal to new Redis template. I have created object. Then let me return Redis template object. Got it. Now for this Redis template, I need to set where is the Jedis connection available. Now rt dot set connection factory. So who will establish connection with the Redis server? That will be established by this method. Let us call this method. So now I'm creating Jedis connection factory object. For that I'm using @bean. This method will be called by IOC container. This method will be called by IOC container. So Jedis connection factory object will be created. And I'm taking Redis template. In the Redis template, I'm injecting my Jedis connection factory object. That's it. So this method also should be called by IOC. For that, I'm writing @bean object. What is the purpose of configuration and bean? What is the purpose of configuration annotation and bean annotation? Come on, guys. @configuration is the annotation which will represent our Java class as a configuration class. And @bean, it is used to annotate the method which should be called by IOC container. That method is returning one object. That object will be represented as a Spring Bean object. Fine. Good. With this, our Redis configuration class is ready. Look at that class. Look at that class, guys. Clear for all of you? What is the configuration I'm doing here? I'm customizing Redis template object. In the Redis template object, I'm injecting Redis factory object. Okay, Redis factory object created, that is injected to Redis template. From the Redis template, I'm going to take ops for hash object. Clear, guys? Fine. Now let me go here and let me create one REST controller. New class REST. I'm taking country REST controller. Country REST controller. To represent this as a REST controller, I'm going for @REST controller annotation. You can write a service class and you can call the methods from that, or directly you can write here also. Now let me write public country REST controller. I'm writing a constructor. Okay. Do I need to call this constructor or it will be called by IOC container? Because this is represented as a Spring Bean. When I represent that as a Spring Bean, IOC container should create the object for this class. In order to create the object for the class, it is going to call the constructor. In this constructor, what I will do is I will take Redis template as a parameter. Key is a integer, value is my country object RT. Redis template object I'm taking as a parameter. So now, do I need to write @auto-void annotation or it is optional? Come on, guys. Is it mandatory to write this annotation or it is optional to write this annotation? Optional to write that annotation. Why it is optional? Here there is only one parameter the constructor is available. If IOC want to create the object for the class, it has to call that parameter as a constructor. So this is optional. I got the RT, that is Redis template. Once I got that Redis template, RT dot, I'm going for ops for hash. What is that, guys? Ops for hash, I'm taking here. Hash key and hash value. Has ops for hash method I am calling, it is going to return me 1 minute. Ops for hash, it is going to return me hash operations object. Hash operations will be available. By using this ops for hash, we can call the methods. What are the methods available? Ops for hash dot. Ops for hash dot. Put is available. Key comma hash key and hash value. Put all method is available. And similarly, we are having a get method. Get method is available for that. And we are having entries method. What is the purpose of entries method? It is asking us the keys. All the keys will be available. Okay, let me check it here. This is, I think so, string. Redis template, string entries. Fine. Yeah, so this is the key that I'm going to use, and this is the value, this is the hash key. Okay, ops for hash object is available. I want to use this ops for hash outside of the constructor. So currently ops for hash is a global variable, ops for hash is a local variable. How can you say that it is a local variable? How can you say it is a local variable? It is available inside the constructor, that is a local variable. I want to access this variable outside of the constructor. I need to make it as a global variable. Ops for hash, hash operations. Hash operations is equal to null value. Now what I will do here? What I will do? This dot ops for hash is equal to RT dot ops for hash. So now I'm taking one constructor. In that constructor, I'm taking my Redis template. I'm taking a constructor. In the constructor, I'm taking Redis template object. By using that Redis template, we are calling ops for hash method. Now, let me write one method, public string add country. Public string add country, I'm expecting country object as a input in the post request. Let me go for post mapping. Then I will specify post country. The data will come in the request body. The data will come in the request body. Let me take it as a country object. Take it as a country object. Public string add country. For that country object is the parameter. For that we are using request body annotation. Ops for hash is available. Ops for hash dot put key, hash key and value. So here key I'm keeping as countries. Okay. So serial number I want to keep it. For that I will take a country dot get serial number and value country object. Value country object. Return country added. Return country added. Okay. Then next one, I want to go for get mapping entries method. I want to go for get mapping entries method. Whatever the countries are added, I want to get all of them. Let me go for countries. Okay. So here I'm writing a method called get countries method. I'm not passing anything. I want to get all the countries which are available in that hash key. For that I will go for ops for hash dot entries. Ops for hash dot entries. What is our key? Our key is countries. So with that key, whatever the entries are available, it is going to give me everything. Map data, key comma value. Multiple keys and values will be available. Let me go for entries dot values. What is the meaning of entries dot values? Collection of objects we are going to get. So collection of objects we are getting. Let me take this collection of objects. Collection of object. This is map key comma value integer comma country. Integer comma country map object is available. Ops for hash entries. Convert from map of object to object. Let me typecast it. What happened? Collection of object. Okay. Return values. Yeah. Add country method is available and get countries method is available. It is dealing with hash ops. Let us try whether we are able to insert the record into Redis server, whether we are able to get the data or not. Fine. Refresh. Before that, let's check this code. I have taken one REST controller class. To represent this class as a REST controller, I'm using one annotation @REST controller. In that I'm taking one variable that is called hash operations. We can make it as a private variable. Hash operations variable I have taken, and I have taken one constructor. For the constructor, I'm having a parameter. That means constructor injection will happen. Do I need to write auto wiring annotation or I no need to write auto wiring annotation? I no need to write it because there is only one parameter as a constructor is available. IOC will call this constructor only to create the object for my class. So dependency injection will happen. Redis template object will be injected to REST controller. Using that Redis template, I'm getting hash operations object. By using this hash operations object, I want to store the data and I want to get the data. To store the data, I'm using a method called put method. To get the data, I'm using a method called entries method. Clear? Look at that code. Huh. When you go for put method, you can see this is the key. That is like a table name. Huh. Countries is your key, hash key, nothing but your, this is your kind of map, key value. Okay. This is like a table key, table name. countries, users, books, employees, like that. It is used to identify what type of data we are storing. This is your key and this is your value. Okay. Here is the problem, guys. Perfect. This is your key and this is your value. This is a type of data, whether you are storing users data or books data, employees data. It is like a table name you can consider. Fine. Let me refresh. Let me run this application, run as boot application. Very good. We got one exception, unsatisfied dependency injection, bean creation exception, redis client.jdis client config, class not found exception. Can you see what is the error I'm getting? I'm getting class not found exception. That means some dependencies are missing to start our application. In our application, we are trying to use the Redis configuration that is used to connect with the Redis server. To connect with the Redis server, some configuration is missing, some class is missing. Copy this exception. Google class not found exception. Scroll down. Go to pom.xml. Along with this Redis starter, I'm adding one more dependency. Yeah. What is the dependency I have added now? Redis client's dependency I have added. Version number I'm not specifying. Boot will take care of that version. Let us try this. Refresh. Update Maven project. Maven, update the project. Force update. Done. Right click, run as boot application. Perfect. Our application started. So it is running on the port number 8080. So it is just a REST application. There is a REST controller available. Now I want to send some data and I want to see the data is inserting or not. Then I want to retrieve the data and I want to see data coming back or not. If I am able to insert and retrieve the data, that means our boot with Redis integration is completed. Go to Postman. Localhost colon 8080/country. That is a post request. Go for post request body. I need to send the data in the body. So what are the keys I'm using? Serial number, that is a integer value. Serial number. Let me keep it as a 1. And the next one, name is available. Name. Let me give the name as India. Then country code. That is also a key. Country code +91. Yes. This is the data that I want to store in the Redis server, right? I'm sending a post request because the method is binded to post request. It is expecting country data in the request body. So that country data I'm representing in the JSON format, and I will click on request send button. Okay. Here send option is available. I want to send that request with the data. Click on send. When I send that request, I got a problem. Good. Serialization exception. Default serializer requires serializable payload, but it received non-serializable payload. Go to console. Go to console. Read the exception. Default serializer requires a serializable payload, but received an object of type country. Boss, whatever the data that you are trying to store, that should implement serializable interface. Serializable is what type of interface? It is marker interface. What is the meaning of a marker interface? No methods. Then why to implement? This is a special identity. This is a special identity. Okay. I implemented serializable interface from the binding class, which I want to store in the Redis server. Clear the console. Now go to Postman. First time I got the exception 500 internal server error. What is the meaning of 500 internal server error? What is that? It is server side error. That means our code is not executed successfully. When I want to store country data from the boot application to Redis server, it is looking for serializable object. But here our class is not a serializable class object. That's why we got the exception. Now let me send the request again. Same data I want to send. By sending a request, click on send. Now what happened? Country added. Where that country added? Where that country added? In the Redis cache. Who is connecting our application to Redis server? Redis connection factory. From the Redis connection factory, I'm taking Redis template. From Redis template, I'm taking ops for hash. Ops for hash provided put method, get method, entries method, delete method. Now I have used put method. What is this put method in the ops for hash? I have sent the post request to this method with the country data in the request body. What is the purpose of this put method? What is the purpose of this put method? To store the data in the Redis server in the form of key and value. Okay, what is the key? Serial number. What is the value? Country data. What is this key? Type of data. It's like a table. Country's data I am storing in the form of key and value. Now by using this key, I want to get all the entries available in the Redis. For that, I have another endpoint. So there is a get request method which is binded to countries, right? When I call this method, then what will happen? Based on the countries, it will get all the entries. What is the entry? What is the entry? It is one key value pair. One key value pair is called as one entry. Black shirt, क्या कर रहा भाई? मैसेज आया? ब्रेकअप हुआ क्या? हाँ? इतना डल में क्यों आप? Why you are reading message so seriously? Right. Ops for hash entries. Here I am passing countries. So this is key. With this, whatever the entries are available in the Redis server, I want to get all the entries. What is the meaning of a entry? What is the meaning of entry? Key and value. Perfect. Good. Let me send that request. Go here, get request. What is my URL pattern? Countries is my URL pattern. Okay, send the request. Am I able to get the data? So here, if you from where I am getting this data? From where I am getting this data? Do I have any database here? Do I have any database here? I am using ops for hash. From where I get this ops for hash? From Redis template. From where I am getting Redis template? From my config. In the config, I have customized my Redis template. How Redis template will know where is Redis server? For the Redis template, I have given Redis connection object. What is the purpose of Redis connection object? It will connect with the Redis server. Am I telling where is Redis server? No, because it is in the same computer. Where my application is running, in the same computer, my Redis server is also running. Are you clear? Tomorrow, if our application and Redis server are in the different machines, if our application and Redis server are in the different machines, then
we need to set the URL of the Redis server, username, port number, password, all the details we need to set to the Redis connection factory. Observe carefully now. You need to do the reverse engineering to understand how boot is communicating with the Redis server. First, REST controller is available. For the REST controller, I'm sending a GET request. Okay, what is the purpose of GET request? It is used to get the data. GET request is used to get the data. How I am getting the data? Ops for hash dot entries by using the key countries. So that means I want to get all the countries which are available in the Redis server. All the countries, nothing but entries, key value. Multiple countries can be available, right? So what is ops for hash? It is a class in the Redis starter. If you see here, ops for hash operations is a class. Which package from it is coming? Data Redis package. We have added Redis starter in our pom.xml. It provided one class called hash operations. By using hash operations, I'm calling entries method. How I got the hash operations? Am I directly creating object for the hash operations? I'm getting from Redis template. I'm getting from the Redis template. Redis template dot ops for hash. How I am getting the Redis template? I'm taking as a constructor parameter. That means I am doing dependency injection. What is the meaning of dependency injection? What is the meaning of dependency injection? Injecting one class object into another class object is called dependency injection. Are you clear? So here, which dependency injection is happening? Which dependency injection happening here? Setter injection or constructor injection? Constructor injection. Am I using auto wiring or I'm not using auto wiring? I'm not using auto wiring. Then how dependency injection will happen? Then how dependency injection will happen? Here my target class is a Spring Bean. How I am representing target class as a Spring Bean? REST controller. That means IOC container has to create the object for the class. To create the object for the class, it has to call the constructor. Which constructor available? Which constructor is available? Parameterized constructor available or zero param constructor is available? Parameterized constructor available. Then this constructor should be called by IOC. To call the constructor, what is required? Redis template is required. Redis template I have already customized. It is going to execute this. So here Redis template object will be created. Am I creating dummy Redis template? I'm creating and injecting Redis connection for the Redis template. I'm creating Redis template. In the Redis template, I'm injecting the Redis connection. What is that Redis connection? To connect with the Redis server. Where is Redis server? Same computer. What is the port number? 6379. Clear? I'm sending a request to my REST controller. My REST controller using ops for hash. Ops for hash coming from the Redis template. Redis template is having the Redis connection. Redis connection knows how to connect with the Redis server. So if you do the reverse engineering, then you will understand how it is communicating. Look at the diagram. This diagram I have given yesterday. Today, any difference in the coding? No. First, I declared Redis connection as one bean. That bean I injected into Redis template bean. From Redis template bean, I have taken ops for a hash. In the ops for a hash, I have methods. What methods? Put method, get method, entries method, delete method available. What is the purpose of a put method? To store the data in the form of key and value. Get method. Get the value based on the key. What is the entries? I want to get all the entries. Delete. Delete one thing. Now, let me insert one more country. Go for post method. There will be a history here. History kahan gaya bhai? Right. Go for post request method. Right. Post request method, body, serial number, let me give as 2, USA, country code +1. Right? I'm sending another post request. That means I'm adding another entry in the countries. Click on send. What happened? Country added. Now go for get request. Send that request. Now what happened? Am I able to get the 2 countries here? Yes, I'm getting 2 countries. One is US, another one is India. So 2 countries are available in the Redis server. Initially, all the countries data I will store in the Redis. I will store multiple countries data in the Redis server. Then if I want countries in my application, should I fetch from database or I will fetch from the Redis? I will fetch from Redis. Why? What is the advantage? Quick, less time. It will take less time to execute. If you go for a DB, more time it will take. So that is the reason in the projects for static data, people will use a Redis server. That is a cache. This Redis server is called as a distributed cache server. What is the meaning of distributed cache? Multiple applications can connect with the same Redis. Now we have a database. How many applications can connect with the database? How many applications can connect with the database? Multiple applications can connect with the same database. Similarly, multiple applications can connect with the Redis server. That's why people will call this as distributed cache implementation. If you have the data in the Redis server, multiple microservices can take the data from the same cache. So that's why it is called distributed cache. What is the meaning of distributed cache? Multiple applications are going to take the data from the Redis server. Clear? Good. Coding is very simple, guys. One configuration class and one controller. Instead of writing this logic in the controller, you can write in the service or you can write in the some other classes also. But concept we got it. Tomorrow depends on the requirement in the project. We will write that logic to store the data or we need to retrieve the data. Yeah, look at this code. It is working as expected. Separate Redis admins will be available. Developers only responsibility to write this logic. They will give you the details of the server. You need to set it and you need to connect. You need to write it. Na? Otherwise, how it will connect to the server? They will give you the properties. You need to set the properties here. Installation part, they will take care of it. First, we will load from the database, then we'll store into cache. You will write this logic in a loop. This method you can keep in the loop. You will first get from the database. You can keep this logic in the runner. When your application started, the runner will execute. Take all the data from the database. Every record you store in the Redis server. You will get the DB. You will make a DB call. You will get the list of countries. The list of countries, every country will insert in the Redis server. Okay. Fine, guys. So this program, I will give you dependencies. Yep. What are the main dependencies I have added first? Create Spring Boot application with below dependencies. Guys, one extra dependency I have added, that is redis.clients with JDs. Okay, so this is first step, create boot application with below dependencies. What is the second step, guys? Create one binding class to represent the data. Create binding class to represent data. Okay, create a binding class to represent our data. Our binding class is a country class. Make sure you are implementing serializable interface. If I don't implement a serializable, I'm not able to store the data in the Redis server. Our object is transferring from Java application to Redis server. That's why it is expecting serializable. Serializable is a marker interface. Marker interface means no methods. Then after, create Redis config class. Create Redis config class. So in the Redis config class, I'm customizing Redis connection factory object and I am customizing Redis template object. So Redis template is having Redis connection. Then I'm creating one REST controller with required methods. Right. Create REST controller with required methods. Create REST controller class with required methods. So this is my REST controller. REST controller with required methods. Perfect. Run the application and test it by using Postman. Run the application and test it using Postman. Okay. Sample data I'm giving you here. This data you can use for testing purpose. Sample input to insert one record. Okay. So Redis setup. How to do this Redis setup? Okay. So first step, 0th setup, download Redis server. I will give the link to download that Redis server. It is available here, guys. So you can click on that download option. So here, copy link. I'm giving the link to download Redis server. I kept in my cloud location. You can download Redis server. Okay. After doing this, what you need to do? Extract that zip file, rar file. Extract rar file and run redis-server.exe and run redis-client.exe. Client is just for checking purpose. In the client, if you type a ping, it will give you pong. Set a key value, get a key, you can get the value. So once it is done, then you can go for boot application creation. You can add the dependencies. You can create one binding class to represent the data. And this is our Redis configuration class. And this is our REST controller class. This is our sample data to test our Spring Boot application. Clear? So with this, we are done with what is Redis cache and how to integrate Redis cache with Spring Boot. Spring Boot with Redis integration. Spring Boot with Redis integration. Okay. Fine. Good. I will upload these notes. Yeah, fine, guys. So with this, you can practice what is Redis and how to work with Redis server. Perfect. Good. Any questions, anyone? Any questions, anyone? Online people, can you type your questions? Tomorrow, no SBMS. Why to cancel? We can take the class, na? Tomorrow we can have the class, no issue. It will be completed by 2 to 3 p.m. na? बोला क्या? Maybe I forgot it, guys.